Hello everyone.
Tengata.
How are you? It may not be the right question to ask you now. How you're feeling? You may be going through the hardest times of your life. Things may not be going the way you wish them to go. Sometimes you may have to encounter some things which you don't like. However, what matters is how you accept these things. Well, at this hardest moments of your life, do you pray? Do you believe that your prayers will be answered? When I immediately give you a reference with regard to prayer, you may be getting yourself associated with reciting rosary, going for mass, or some kind of personal prayers. Well, these are all expressions of prayers, and of course, the Eucharistic celebration is the most effective way of praying. However, prayer is not something which happens from a person's mouth alone. Prayer is not merely some kind of recital of a certain dictations or some kind of written forms of words. Prayer is something beyond that. When you pray, you get close to God. So you may ask me, well, do all of my prayers get answered? Well, I cannot assure you. Some of your prayers may get answered and some of your prayers may not get answered. It is not because God is deaf. It is not because God is not listening to you. Well, I can clearly say that your prayers will be answered. Let us look what is prayer from the scriptures itself. When we analyze biblically, we easily find that for some people their prayers were answered immediately, while for some others it took a long while to get their prayers answered. Let us take the example of Moses. Well, when Moses prayed, the water bodies split into two. This was an immediate action of his prayer. Well, of course, you can sense it very well. If his prayer was not answered in the very moment, the people of Israel would have been not there evermore in the world. So some of the incidents, some of our prayers will be answered very fast, while some others it may not be answered. When you look into the lives of Israel itself, some of their prayers were not answered. It took a long while for them to reach the promised land. They asked God how long it will take for them to reach the promised land, but God never answered, and they wandered around 40 years in the desert. And when you come to the New Testament, the same thing you see. Some of the prayers were answered immediately, but some others took a long while. When Peter prays, a dead woman is raised from the dead. And this happens immediately. While some other cases are there which took a long while to get answered. Even in many of your lives, you too must have experienced the very same. Some of your prayers, they must have been answered immediately, while some others it must have taken a long time. You must have prayed for a good result in your examinations, and immediately after the exam, sometimes you must have sensed a positive response from God. While some of your other prayers, it must have taken a long time. Basically, I think there are three responses that God gives to you when you pray. The first response can be a yes, the second one can be a no, the third one can be a wait. Well, of course, in the long run, your prayer will be answered. Let us take the case of coronavirus. Well, of course, a lot of people in this world have been getting into the trouble of one kind or the other because of this coronavirus. Now, is it because God is deaf, or is it because God does not love the world, that He does not care for His people? I think when you analyze this situation rationally, we may not get an immediate answer. However, in the long run, each person individually would be able to find some kind of solution to this. Well, of course, this cannot be a rationally satisfying answer, again I tell you. But let your prayer make an effect in your life and in the lives of the others. So continue your prayer life, whether they are answered or not answered, whether they are positive responses from God or negative responses from God. Positive responses can be there in your prayer lives. Negative responses also can be there in your prayer lives. That is because God knows that the particular thing which you're asking for is not suited for you. Sometimes your prayers may not be answered immediately because there is a time for everything. So, dear friends, never cease praying. Prayer will ultimately lead you to God, and the very act of praying will help you to grow spiritually. Let each prayer of yours be a moment of getting yourself close to God and taking others to God.